if 2025, with all the things that we were hitting and to go through all the things that we did and to still be alive and still be doing the volume that we're doing, to be able to survive that, like, watch out. We're coming, man. Like, this is going to be a big year, and I think everybody is so much stronger for what they've gone through, and they're so much more trained and more well-equipped to be able to go and tackle this industry. Like, I can't wait to see what we do.
This is the Solar Disruption Theory.
This is the Solar Disruption Theory podcast. My name is Chad Towner, and with us today, we've got Mitch Ford. Mitch, it's a brand new year. 2025 is in our rearview mirror. Thank you so much for joining. You are a VP with the largest sales organization in the United States. Mitch, how you doing?
Fantastic. Good to be here.
Great to have you, man. Thank you so much for joining. I've been wanting to have you in here for a while. I met you a couple years ago. You first with Vitl, right? You came over with them, but you've been in sales for a long time. So how did you get into door-to-door sales, and how did you eventually get to the place where you started selling solar?
So I started clear back in like 2006. So back before Vivint was Vivint, it was called Apex. I was considering chasing college baseball thing, and I didn't get a full ride, and I had a partial scholarship, and I was considering, how do I make money and pay for school and play ball and do all the things. And my buddy was like, hey man, we're going out to Miami for the summer, and you could make like 20 grand and you could pay for your whole school in just one summer. And I was like, done. So my wife and I had just got married. We packed up and moved to Miami, went out and had a really rough start. Like, it was really painful getting going, but eventually it clicked. And when it did, it just really clicked, and I had a phenomenal first year. After that, I became a manager the next year, and I've been doing door-to-door ever since.
How much money did you make that first year?
I mean, it wasn't crazy, but it was like $85,000.
I mean, your goal was 20.
Right.
So
it was life-changing for me at that time, for sure.
yeah, as a college student, I remember like my first summer, I think everybody, and it's not for everybody, right? It's like you go out there thinking you have no idea what you're doing, right? And then they just kind of you shadow a guy for a day or two, you see him get a sale, and then you're like, okay, I'm just going to try and replicate what I just saw.
Yep.
And you either figure it out or you don't, right? And I know a lot of people, they don't, and then they end up either like going back home, or they become like a technician and they install alarm systems, right? And like, it's funny for me, I actually like came out of the gates crushing it. My first 2 days, I got 2 each of those days, and I was just like, I'm the best salesman ever. And my whole team was like, how are you doing this? And then I realized it was just like, beginner's luck was totally a real thing. And I went for like a week and a half without getting another sale, and I was, devastated and had to really learn like what I was doing. I couldn't just, get lucky on a smile alone, right? And so you did that, and you stayed in alarms for quite a while. How long did you do alarms for?
Been like 12 years, so quite some time.
Okay, so did you go straight from alarms? This is like 2018 then, or somewhere around there?
Yeah, 17. So we're probably 11 years in alarms, and then about 9 years in solar.
Okay, so you went straight from alarms to solar. You didn't go and do pest or satellite or anything else?
Nope.
So you first went into solar. What was your first experience like in solar?
Very similar. Like, I thought, based on just my experience, I'd just be able to murder it. And I didn't necessarily step into a situation where I had leadership or training or even mentors. It was kind of out of desperation. I had a really bad experience with my last kind of hoorah in alarms. And so I made the jump, and I got offered an amazing offer, which was really too good to be true. But I was just kind of thrown out there and said, figure it out. And it took me quite some time. I think it went 3 months without making any money. I think I finally sold one deal, and I think my commission on it was like negative $2,000 because I sold it way too low, just trying to get a deal done. So
Did you know you were losing money at the
no,
time?
I had
You
no
just
idea.
Didn't know what you were
I didn't know what I was doing. I had nobody to help me, nobody to train me. I absolutely learned solar by trial and error in the worst way.
Yeah. It's not like selling somebody a home security system, right? Like home security systems, okay, you know, you got your sensors here and they call the police if there's a break-in.
Right.
Solar is very, very different, complex, and it's not like other things that get sold where it's like, okay, you know, you signed up and we've got the technician, he's down the road, he's going to come and get you installed. Solar can take weeks or months, right? Yes. And so like, it's just a totally different dynamic. And I've seen that with people transitioning. I transitioned from alarms to solar, and making that transition, it is a completely different mindset, a different business model, different experience. And at the end of the day, like the sales rep needs to really understand like what they're actually selling in order to do it right. Or
Yes.
or they may end up, you know, paying the company money for having gone out and sold that day like you did.
Yeah, and you know, I really like the way that we've kind of transitioned over the years into doing more of a setter closer model. I think had I stepped into just having to go get somebody interested in saving money on a bill they were already paying, and I didn't have to know all the different nuances of contracts and utility bills and things I had no idea about.
Right.
I'd never even heard about these things. And trying to just bite it all off at one time was just too overwhelming. Took me a long time to get there. But the transition that we've come to now, where we start out where somebody just goes and sets an appointment, and then a qualified closer comes behind and is able to answer all the questions and do all the, you know, paperwork and go through all that stuff is very, very much more attainable to be able to go be successful at that than I think the way I tried to do it at the start.
Yeah, no, I've definitely we've seen this big shift towards setter closer, and I agree with you. Like, setters just need to know enough to be able to say, hey, are you interested to see if we can save you money on your utility bill, or help, or even if you can't save money in some markets, you know, get them off of the dependence on this monopoly and give them another option, an alternative for their energy, or even just lock their payments in long term. Like, if you just say a sales rep, a setter, like, hey, just get interest in that, and then the closer can come in and explain all of the details, especially in today's world, right, where there's so many different financing options. Utilities are getting the rate plans are getting more and more complex. They're not getting simpler. Like, you know, we're here in California right now. You have a lot of teams in California. There's 538 different price points that the utilities are charging on a given day, or paying back in net metering, and so it is just a very complex world. And for a college kid to understand, you know, it's a lot. So Now, as far as you go though, like, when did you meet up with the group that you have been working with for the last several years with Vitl? You were with them before Vitl. So how did that all happen?
So my first very small blip with a small little company did not go well, and it was not a good situation. I ended up linking up with Doug Robinson, good friend of mine I'd known for years and years and years. So I jumped on with Legacy. And at that point, I finally decided, let's go all in. I packed up my family and I moved to Ventura, California. Not a lot of business was going on in Utah at the time, and California was the market. So we packed up and moved. And at the beginning, I didn't have like the teams that I had built in alarms. My last experience, I lost a lot of my guys. So I was kind of starting over from scratch, and I was really just going out and banging doors and closing deals myself. I didn't even really have a team, but it went really well. I made a lot of money, was able to do very, very well, do over 100 installs my first year with Legacy personally, and had a really good experience. And the next year was even the same, very, very good from that standpoint. But I started to build and get some guys and recruited some teams and started to get the thing going. And then COVID hit. And COVID in California was very different than COVID in Utah. I still owned my home in Utah. And, you know, in California, schools were shut down. You couldn't go to the beach. You couldn't go to the park. Like, we would walk our dogs outside and people were yelling at us and like calling the cops on you and crap, you know? And so in Utah, schools never closed down. And so my wife finally said, look, we're going home. You can stay or you can come with us, but we're out of here. And so right at that time, Tyler Bastian had started a program at Legacy called Legacy X. And it was a 10-day on, 20-day off blitz program, hence the X for 10. And I was kind of very skeptical that they could be successful with that. I was like, how do you do solar in 10 days and then you're not there to kind of help the customer through the whole process of getting to install and all those things? So I was skeptical, but I was very intrigued about the idea. So I went and met with them and said, show me how this works.
Yeah.
And to see the level of detail that they had done, this was not just some random thing thrown together, like let's all go out and sell together for a couple days. The structure, the organization, the systems and processes, I was blown away. And I said, sign me up, packed up my house, moved back to Utah, and been with these guys ever since.
And that program, like, they crushed it. I mean, I think people had always talked about doing like a blitz model for the reps who'd been selling for several years, but they had a family and they didn't want to do the summer thing anymore. Because summers get hard. Like,
it does.
As you start to, you got your kids, you start to like build a family and plant some roots in a place, to pack up and leave for 4 months every year and be gone the entire summer. Even if your family goes with you, you're uprooting them, right? They don't get to see their friends for 4 months. They're in a new place.
They eventually get into school and they're playing sports and they're like, Dad, I'm not leaving anymore. So we had to adapt and figure out something else. It gets
very difficult. And so I think people had always kind of kicked around this idea of like, hey, what about a blitz model? But I think nobody had ever executed on it, to your point, like to the level of detail with, the mindset and the culture around just going and grinding for 10 days all in. Yeah, I mean, they absolutely crushed it. And so you guys did that for a couple of years, and then you came over to Freedom in 2022, I believe, March of 2022, if I remember. And I know that was a big transition for you guys because now you're working with the installer, you're your own dealer. We were still building out like our sales tech, I think, at the time. And so I know that was a pretty wild experience for you guys. And, what has your experience been like over the last, let's say, what was your experience like early on with Freedom?
Well, I mean, there were definitely some major pluses. And there was obviously some things that give and take on both ends. One of the things that was very tough, that had a big impact on us with Legacy had a bunch of different install partners, right? And in different areas, you were using different install partners based on where they were at.
But that's how most dealers still exist today. They have this kind of like buffet of install options.
Right. And in certain instances, it seemed like that was very advantageous. It was really great to have different options until it wasn't. And, you never know what's going to happen. Like, we didn't have any idea it was coming, but Empire and Titan both end up going bankrupt. And we had a significant amount of our volume with them, which all of a sudden, none of our reps are getting paid. None of our installs are getting finished. I mean, we were owed so much money, and you could see the risk that comes with having all these options and being with different installers. One of the big draws to Freedom is that it was one system, one process, one company, one installer nationwide. And it gave us such a bigger footprint of area to be able to go and fulfill in. And we all had such big networks nationwide. This now opened up our recruiting to so many more other avenues. And again, it was the same sales process in Florida as it was in California, as it was in Maine, which made it very easy to scale and build into and recruit to.
Yeah, I think there are, pros and cons to both models, right? But we believe that there are a lot more pros to having this model where you have a sales team in one state and a sales team in another state, and they both experience the exact same software systems, processes, the points of contact that you reach out to for help and all that stuff. Having that uniform, we feel like, is the most scalable way. But yeah, it comes with drawbacks. There are times where, a local company and there's, the one little warehouse and they've got like 2 trucks. Right. And if you only give them like 5 sales, they're probably going to crush that. And if you have a problem, you can call the CEO right away, right? And it's like, hey, I need you to help me with this. and he'll help you immediately.
Right.
And when you're a bigger organization, we got to kind of build things into a little bit more methodical with queues and other things. So there are, I think pros and cons, but clearly you guys have bought into the mindset and the concept of like, all right, let's just go all in, have one large dealer partner. I know it hasn't been perfect. 2025 was a crazy year, I think, for everybody. What was that like for you as a sales leader navigating 2025? And feel free to be honest. Like, I know everybody in this industry has felt the pain of the big, beautiful bill. And, solar was already not in a great place really ever since the election of 2024. And so like, what was it like for you as a sales leader to navigate all of those crazy challenges this last summer?
For me, I've been doing this a long time, and I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly in this industry. And one of the things that's so important to me is just the trust factor. When you work for somebody and work with people that you trust and they can be transparent, that can solve a lot of the problems, right? The opposite side of that is there are dishonest people, there are shady people, there are people out there that are willing to lie, cheat, and steal. And I mean, you got to basically be watching over your shoulder at any point in time. They could stab you in the back. Those two things are very different from me, because at the end of the day, the industry is what it is, and there's a lot of things outside of your control. If you're working with people you trust, you can get through anything for the most part. I would much rather deal with things head on, know what's coming, have people be transparent and have that trust factor, and then just go try to work through it. And inevitably, that was what I cared about after my poor experience I left alarms over. Is I didn't care about chasing a bonus or chasing a deal or trying to go negotiate the bricks off of my next opportunity. It was much more, I got to go align with people I can trust and I know have my back and have full alignment there, which I found with Aaron and Tyler more than I have ever found in my entire career. I have absolute trust and faith with them, and just that to me was such a big deal. Then going into 2025, I mean, solar has been a mess. I mean, it's been absolutely insanity. And again, so much of it was completely out of anyone's control. A lot of it was government issued things that changed. And the fact that we were able to have such an open, honest, transparent relationship with Freedom, I feel like was very different from when we were kind of in the dealer model. When we were with the dealer side of things, it was kind of like, we're kind of here, but not here. Once we kind of got acquired and became more of a partner with Freedom, it seemed like the layers of communication started to open up, and a lot more was just like, hey, let's be open, let's be honest, you guys are partners, let's talk about it, let's figure out problems and try to solve things as we go. And to me, again, anybody in this industry has been feeling this pain. It's not like anybody was immune to it, but at least we had the ability to communicate and talk and work through it. And I felt like, Freedom has done as good as anybody possibly could have done, especially at their size and with everything that was going, again, outside of their control.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I mean, we certainly haven't been perfect, but we really tried hard to give you guys all of the information, right? And tell you exactly what we're seeing. And sometimes it was tough because we would share something and then it would change on a dime. During that whole big, beautiful bill craziness, we see one version of the bill come out and we're like, oh, okay, we think it's going to be okay. And then 2 days later, a new version comes in. It's catastrophic again for solar. And it was very back and forth. But yeah, for us, I think it is a recipe for disaster when you try to hide things from your partners, right? And any sort of secrecy or lack of transparency only exacerbates these problems. Like solar went through a lot of problems, but I think a lot of the people who felt like, and in our industry, it's tough. Like in our industry, if you show any sign of strain or stress or weakness whatsoever, everybody all of a sudden just assumes catastrophe, and they just want to, like, they're just so quick to jump to conclusions.
Yep.
And so for us, we just felt like, hey, it is what it is. This is this situation. And it really was helpful, I think, also because it helped you guys see it from the business perspective and say, hey, this is what we're experiencing. This is what we need to do to help navigate through this, right? And there was so much more collaboration when we get on those weekly calls. I remember one call it was like, you were like, okay, I just want someone to tell me that everything's going to be okay. You remember that call? And Brett was like,
Yes.
Brett's like, well, I can't guarantee everything's going to be okay. And I know you didn't love hearing that, but like that just was the level of transparency that we've tried to have.
It was, and I appreciate it. It kept seeming like more and more just kept getting piled on. And the way Brett was talking, I was like, is solar dead? I mean, is that the answer? Are we done? Or is there any kind of light at the end of the tunnel? And I think Brett was just so willing to just share all the details and how tough it was to survive all the things that were happening. And again, that was very much appreciated. And I think one of the reasons why we were willing to stay, because if we were just kind of like told, hey, just sit back and wait and hopefully we get through it, I don't think a lot of us would have stayed. So the transparency was key. But I wanted to know, like, do you think we're going to make it? Are we going to get through this? Are we going to survive? And it's pretty crazy, like you said, to get the education that we feel like we kind of got in 2025 from the business side and how all this stuff works with the finance partners and how many different factors play, a huge part in the success of a company being able to do what they need to do to be successful in this industry. And so a lot of that was very good learning experience. And got to tip our cap. Like, I can't believe how well it seems like we did come through it. So many other companies haven't. And it seems like we've set ourselves up for an amazing 2026. I couldn't be more excited. It's been a long time since I felt this good about solar.
Yeah, no. And I don't think all of the problems are gone and all of the adversity is out of the way, but it definitely feels like, we've rounded the corner and we can see that light at the end of the tunnel, and it's probably brighter than ever given, all of the other things that we're seeing out there in the industry. So it is very exciting. But I will say, like, one of the things that I look back on 2025, and we had to make a ton of changes within our business, right? We had to really lean on technology. We just had an episode recently go out with our CTO, Zach Bloom, and our VP of product, Rob Richardson, and they were talking about like solving these problems with technology that help us save money on costs and become more efficient. And I really don't think we would have made all those changes and figured out ways to streamline and automate if we weren't kind of forced to, right? And so like this whole concept around adversity, making it has absolutely made Freedom better as a result. And like we're seeing it now with sales that you guys make right now, they're flying through the pipeline because of so many of these automations that we've made. And we still have a long way to go. By no means, are we there and have we figured everything out? But I think looking back, I wouldn't choose 2025 again, but there are things I'm definitely grateful for that came out of 2025, and it forced us to really look at our business in a new light and to really, lean in with our sales partners, right? Like, hey, how do we figure this out together? And you guys have been phenomenal. So what are some of the things you're excited about in 2026? You said you feel better than you have in a long time. What is it that you feel so good about?
Well, I mean, we kind of know the legislation is what it is for the time being, and it took a lot of time to figure out how to navigate that and, figure out this domestic content stuff and FIOC stuff and all these things that were coming now. And it feels like Freedom has been able to navigate it very effectively to go get these new partnerships and have alignment with Tesla is a big, big deal. And some of the other things that are coming forward with technology and options, and just, it feels like we're finally playing offense again.
Yeah.
And then, the consolidation of Pros and Vitl and Boundless at one point seemed so not what we wanted to do, and seemed like we would fight it at any cost, has now come to be something I'm super excited about. And obviously it was for figuring out how to be more efficient, but now it seems as if there's so many other benefits that are coming from it. And aligning with some of these guys, I'm just like, dude, we should have done this a long time ago, right? But having the excitement of being able to be, as opposed to being a big fish in a little pond, it's kind of like, hey, now it's time to go level up and play with the big boys in a much bigger pond. And the excitement of all of us to kind of rise to that level is really getting everybody excited. And again, I just think all the things that needed to happen in order to survive have given us this like faith, like, dude, the industry just hit us with everything it had and it couldn't stop us, right?
Yeah.
Like it hit us hard and those punches hurt, but it didn't knock us out. We kept on coming, and I don't think we could get harder. We kept on coming. So that gives you a lot of confidence moving forward.
Yeah, no, and I mean, you're spot on. Like we got to a point where we're like, okay, where are we wasting money? Where are we just spending where we don't need to be? You know, and we have these 3 amazing sales partners that, you know, everybody has to have their own CFO. They have to have their own admins and their own people. And it's like, we're paying 3 times for these things. Not to mention, you know, my team isn't huge. And so for me to have to kind of reiterate the same conversation 3 different times, it just was very clear to us that we needed to streamline this as well. And, you know, the plan to acquire all 3 dealers was always the plan, but it was set to happen in a couple years. But yeah, I think it kind of, we all looked at it and said, this makes sense to do it now. I remember I was on a call with Ty Bastian, and he was like, you know what? We need to just do it. We need to just lean in. We need to make this happen. And to see that, you know, the leadership on all sides just say, we got to figure this out, you know, and I've seen it before where like sales leaders, CEOs, it's hard for them to work together, right? They like being the alpha dog. And so for them to have been able to have the conversations they've had and like you said, you know, merge these groups of people, these cultures. And it was funny, we were all in Mexico in November, and you know, one guy came up to me and he was like, man, I've hated these other guys for so long. And then I, you know, sit down with them next to the pool and I'm like, wait a second, they're just like us, you know? And, you know, there's different variations and nuances slightly, but at the end of the day, you know, people are realizing there's a lot more in common than they have in differences.
Yeah, and I think it's just become more and more apparent that we are all cut from the same cloth, and it's a bigger, badder, stronger team going to war together now, and I think everybody's pretty excited about it. Like, this has actually been a lot smoother process than I think we could have anticipated.
Yeah, and we're stoked about it on our end, because I do think there's not only a cost savings, but just, you know, we're stronger together, right? We're stronger together, and now this new world, this is Freedom's sales arm, right? You guys are all partners in this, and you know, now we can go and dominate and align with one vision. I want to speak a little bit about you as a leader. So, like, one of the things I've always admired about you, and you know, my first time meeting you was when Vitl first came over. So I didn't know you, but like at first glance, I was like, oh man, this guy is gonna take my lunch money, dude. Like, he looks like a UFC fighter. You know, but you're not. Like, you care more about people than anybody I know, you know? Like, your leadership style is all about taking care of your people. So tell me a little bit about, you know, your leadership style and how you've gotten to this point where you are philosophically as a leader, how you lead and take care of your people.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the key. Like, if you're trying to hoard the money and just make it all yourself and try to see where you can cut corners to pull back more for yourself, eventually your people will feel it, and they're not going to progress, and they're not going to trust you. And again, all that to me is the most important aspect of it. If people know that you have their back and that you're willing to go battle and fight for them in rooms that they're not in, and they know that they are not capable of doing what they could without you, meaning, are you adding value?
Yeah.
right? There's way too much of that goes on in our industry where people are simply debt collectors. They found themselves into a position, they landed at got the promotion by probably working their way to get there. But at that point, it's kind of like I've arrived and I don't necessarily have to work for mine anymore. And they just get to debt collect and you owe me because of my position and you're paying homage to be on my team.
Yep.
And I've always hated that. But on the other side of it, I've never cared if somebody made money off me as long as they were making me better than I could be on my own.
Yeah.
Right? Add value to me, help me progress, help me grow. I hope you make money because I'm hoping you're incentivized to do it so you keep doing it.
Right.
Right? So I've always been very for the idea of I want my leaders to make money because I want them to be incentivized to continue to help me grow. And unless you're the owner of a company, somebody's making money off you. It's just about aligning with the right people. So I've always tried to internalize that and say, how do I make sure that I'm adding value to my people? How do I not just be a debt collector? How do I help them grow and progress? And of course, these people become your family. I spend as much time with them as I do with my family.
Right.
I do care about their success. I do care if they get to grow. I do care about their progression and making sure that they're hitting their goals and getting to where they want to go. And I want that to be something that they look at and say, hey, my leader helped me get to where I wanted to go, not the other way around.
Man, I absolutely love that. And, that is not that doesn't come inherently to most people. That's typically a learned philosophy. Would you say you learned that over time or you just kind of came that way?
Well, I mean, yeah, I think it's something that's learned, but maybe it's how you're raised, maybe it's just certain aspects of it, but it always resonated with me and I could see it from the other side. I saw people out there that hated their leaders and thought that they were constantly trying to take from them. And I saw them doing backdoor things and, the back end situations that happened in the alarm game. The leaders had so much control and there were ways that they were able to just pull from you and take from you. And I saw that when that happened, you might have won that battle, but you're losing the war. Your people are going to leave. They're not going to stay loyal. You're going to have an underlying current happen that's pulling people away because eventually it will come out. And so I just wanted to stay on the other side of that. And from the start, a lot of my recruits and people that I brought in were my family. My brothers both worked for me, my brother-in-laws, my sister-in-laws, like everybody that did come in, I was like, I got to take care of them. Yeah. These are my people.
Right.
Like it's my job. I recruited you. I got to make sure they succeed.
No, yeah, that's amazing. And I think there is so much abuse out there in in these sales hierarchies. Like you said, a sales leader gets to a certain place and they're like, okay, cool. This is just what I get now, regardless of whether I put in the work or not. The phrase I've always used in sales and talking to other people too is just sales is always and will always be a game of what have you done for me lately, right? Like it's great that you crushed it last year. What are you doing right now? What are you going to do this year to add value to your people? And or those people that want the promotion or want to level up to the next level, what are they doing right now to earn that, right? And so there is never this the leaders who think they can get to a place and then just coast. They're the ones who should be looking, behind their back because they're about to get stabbed.
Yeah,
rightfully so too, because you have to continue to earn it and add value to your people.
Yeah. And one thing that I really liked, I feel like there is so much benefit to the entire structure that Freedom has with the baseline and the way that the overrides and everything are taken out of like a red line model. When I came into the industry, I didn't understand. Again, I was so new to this and didn't get it.
You were just paid a flat rate per kilowatt.
Right. I came in and they said, hey, we're going to give you a 2.8 red line in California.
Oh, you did have a red line. Okay.
I had a red line. And so they said, we're going to give you a 2.8. And they said, what do you want to pay your guys? And I was like, well, what do you mean? And they were like, well, what do you want to make off them? And I was like, oh, I don't know. I want my guys to make really good money too. So I was on a 2.8. I said, just give my guys a 2.9. I kept 10 cents and that was it. And we were selling well and it was going great and I was happy and everything was good. But then I started to grow and one of my managers, or my guys, was like ready to start managing his own team. And another one, and they were like ready to break off. And I was like, okay, I'm a regional now. How do I get more margin? They're like, no. That is your red line. You gave that to your guys. I was like, wait, I've already given away the margin. How do I make this make sense? So I was actually taking a big pay cut and we were splitting 5 cents each. And then the ability to grow was like really poor. And then on top of that, I sat with recruits later on where I remember I had a group come in, this regional manager I was recruiting, and he brought in like his 8 managers. And we were sitting down, going through the details, asking all these questions. And then they wanted to talk details of like commissions. And I said, well, what's your red line you guys are currently working with? I didn't realize the floodgates I was opening up. They all started to argue and fight. The top producer in the group had the worst deal because he had negotiated the worst. And they were like, what? He's getting that? What? And it opened this box. They were ready to start throwing in my office. And I was like, dang, I don't like that. I like the idea of being transparent, saying, these are the stacks. Here's how you promote. Here's how you progress. Here's how you work up. Right. And everything is organized and structured so nobody's doing backdoor shady deals or this guy negotiated better than me and has a better offer than I do. It's all just what it is. You get what you earn and you work your way into it, and there's a clear-cut pathway to progression.
Yeah, because otherwise, people learn that the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and they just need to be squeaky, and they stop focusing on producing, and they start focusing on complaining and asking for more all the time. I know that was one of the things that I love about our baseline model, and I think continues to propel our growth. And I think it's one of the big reasons why we've been able to get to this point and navigate this is like we win together in the baseline model and we lose together when there's adders and other costs. Like
everybody shares it.
We're all in alignment.
Right.
And with this new partnership that we have with you guys, feels like we're even more deeply aligned. So I couldn't be more excited about 2026. Couldn't be more grateful for your leadership and your dedication and commitment. At the end of the day, it has not been an easy road, especially 2025. Hasn't been perfect, but I feel like we are on the trajectory to completely dominate this space. And it's because of leaders such as yourself that are just all in, giving it everything you've got. So last question I have for you is like, why do you do this? What is your main motivation behind doing this and grinding day in and day out for your people and operating the way that you do?
Well, I love sales. I love it. I was offered a pretty significant salary position years back. And, when I talked to friends and family about it, they were like, you turned that down? I was like, absolutely every time. Right? Nobody's going to cap me and tell me what my hour's worth or what my year's worth or how much I can make. I love the idea of being able to control my earning potential based on my work ethic.
Yep.
I love commission only because there is no ceiling. And I love being able to teach that to other people and give them the ability to go and change their complete way of believing. Like I remember thinking to myself, how on earth am I going to make $100,000 in this world? What job am I going to go and get in college? And how am I going to get to a place where I can make just 6 figures? And I mean, this job completely changes your whole perspective. And you get to a point where like, dude, that's not even in my ballpark. I'm way beyond that and what my expectations are. And I love to be able to do that in an honest, ethical way, right? I feel like solar just absolutely makes sense. I feel like being able to knock on somebody's door and say, you're paying a bill that you have no control over. It's in most cases a monopoly that you're required to have this provider. They dictate the rate and you have no control over it. And it continues to escalate with inflation over and over and over. And to give somebody the ability to literally save money on a bill that they're fixed to is just so different from any other sale that there is. You're always trying to figure out if you're selling a car or selling a TV or whatever you're selling, can they fit this in their budget? We're literally coming and lowering your budget. We're saving people money on a bill that they're already paying. Like that doesn't exist in sales. It's very, very unique. And I love the ability to leave people's homes and say, I was able to make amazing money and do it honestly and ethically. And I put that person in a better position than they were before I found them. Not, I found a way to convince them to fit this into their budget and they're going to regret this later kind of thing.
Yep.
And when you can be aligned with that, believe in what you're selling, have full, belief that you're putting people in a better position, you can get very motivated behind that and absolutely want to go share that with other people and say, hey, I got something really cool. Come do this with me. And then again, the biggest reward that I have as a leader is being able to see these people that I brought into it be successful, completely change their perspective on how much they're able to go make and provide for their families and the life that they can provide for themselves, kind of thing.
No, it's I think the thing that keeps all of us here, despite all of the drama in solar and all of the ups and downs and all of the uncertainty that goes on from time to time, the reason we all come back here is we know utilities are not going down on their costs. They're only going up. We know that the demand for energy is only going higher with things like AI and everything else. Like people are driving more electric cars. Everybody needs more power, right? Mm-hmm. We know the need is there. And then there's this other dynamic where it is so complex. It is so nuanced that you can't just sell solar online. Like it's not like you can just sign up and, check out of solar in Amazon or some other app. Like you need somebody to hold your hand and walk you through it. Mm-hmm. And to be able to create and help train those people, that army of salespeople, and help them change their lives, it is absolutely empowering. And I hear you. Like that is the high that I chase as well, is like being able to provide this incredible life-changing opportunity for anybody. Doesn't matter what household you grew up in. Doesn't matter if you were sleeping on a park bench a month ago. You can make, life-changing money and turn your entire life around in this model. So I love it. Anything else that I didn't touch on?
I mean, at the end of the day, if 2025, with all the things that we were hitting, some companies weren't exposed at the same level, but to have the exposure to Mosaic and Sonova and the Big Beautiful Bill, and then all the finance companies reeling to figure out how to do it, and to go through all the things that we did and to still be alive and still be doing the volume that we're doing, to be able to survive that, like, watch out. We're coming, man. Like, this is going to be a big year, and I think everybody is so much stronger for what they've gone through, and they're so much more trained and more well-equipped to be able to go and tackle this industry. Like, I can't wait to see what we do.
100%. We survived 25 and going to dominate 26. His name is Mitch Ford. He is an amazing leader, a very selfless person, and an awesome family man, a great dad and great husband. So thank you so much for coming and joining us today, Mitch. Appreciate you, appreciate your leadership, and appreciate you getting in this room and having these difficult conversations, answering some of these questions and talking through some of the PTSD of what's behind us, and look forward to the future. We will see you guys on the next episode.